All right, hey, this is Daniel Kennebrew again. I am joined by Elder Anthony Miller. He's here doing this thing with us. It's Sunday school again. It is Sunday morning. It is Palm Sunday, and we want to discuss the Sunday school lesson for today. I know everybody doing their social distancing thing right now, so we can't join together, but we at least wanted to create the same community online or virtually, as we say. Elder Miller, how are things going in Louisiana?
Man, we're good. We're good. We're staying inside, staying quarantined, but we're doing all right.
That sounds good. That sounds good. If you read your lesson for this week, you know our lesson is coming from Isaiah chapter 42, and the title of the lesson is A Just Servant. The lesson focus celebrate God's establishment of justice for all people. So I think I will handle the first outline. Elder Miller, I'll toss it to you for the next one. And then we'll bring this thing together. That work for you, Elder Miller?
Sounds great, man. Let's do it.
Sounds good. Listen, in this first outline, Isaiah chapter 42, verses 1 through 4, the servant's mission is what it is subtitled. And it talks about, this is Palm Sunday, as we talked about earlier. And it talks about the people, God's people preparing for the Messiah to come. And what really stood out to me in this first outline, verses 1 through 4 in Isaiah chapter 42, is the character of the Messiah. Not per se the mission of the Messiah, but the character. And it talks about how he's going to be a compassionate champion. Think about this. In verse 2, it says, he shall not cry nor lift up, nor cause his voice to be heard in the street. Verse 3, a bruised reed shall he not break, and the smoking flax shall he not quench. Think about this just for a second. Above what he's going to do, it talks about how he does what he does. And I think this is a great lesson for us as Christians, as leaders, as teachers, especially in the tumultuous time we're in right now. It's all about how you do it. He is going to cause a revolution. The Messiah is going to come and cause a revolution, but he's going to do it in such a compassionate way. And how do I know this is true? Because when I look in John chapter 13, one of Jesus' last words to his disciples was, people will know you're my disciples because of your love. Think about that. He came with compassion. He leaves with a message of love. And I think that is such an amazing thing. And that is part of his mission. It's not always about in church what we do, but many times it's about how we do, how we speak to each other, how we handle conflict. That is so very important. We must always do it with compassion. Elder Miller, I'm going to throw it to you. Isaiah 42 verses 5 through 9. Take it away. Well, what stood out to you?
So in you talking about how Jesus does what he does, I think that verses 5 through 9 really begin to speak to the why of it. It talks about the righteous purpose of Jesus, the Messiah coming to earth to be the light of the world. And the purpose for that light is to open blinded eyes. We recognize that our eyes were blinded by our own sin, our own shame, our own selfishness, wanting to live life the way that we choose to live life. And Jesus comes to the earth to be a light to help us to see that there is a better way. There's really only one way, and that is the way and the will of God. So Jesus comes to be the light of the world to help us to recognize that we desperately need salvation. We desperately need to have a connection and fellowship with God. But then in verses 8 and 9, he begins to remind us of who he is. He says, my name is Jesus. I am the Lord. I am Jesus, and I deserve all glory. He says, I'm not going to share my glory with anyone else. So he's really saying, when I come to have that compassion, when I come to show you an example of love, when I come to love you enough to open your eyes, I deserve all the glory. Glory doesn't belong to anyone else. It doesn't even belong to you, but all the glory belongs to me.
Wow. Now, I had one question when you were speaking. I'm going to go back to the beginning of what you said when you talked about this blindness. Is it possible that a person, a Christian, an unbeliever, whoever, a preacher, can be blind and not know it?
Absolutely. Because we can be blinded by our own desires. And if we spend more time or so much time focusing on what we want feels and seems right. it looks right. It can even look like the will of God for our lives. It takes us spending time in communication, in the Word of God, in prayer, understanding God's will for our lives, to recognize that what we think we want, we really don't want, but really helping us to be able to see that we have to hear from Christ, have to be connected to him to know what's best for our lives.
Wow, wow, great point. Now, we want to emphasize the importance of Sunday school, and I know we're distant right now, social distancing, but that doesn't have to mean social isolation. Still check on your students check on your teachers, pray constantly for your pastor, pray for political leaders, all of those who are in authority and making hard decisions. Don't think it's easy for a pastor or Sunday school teacher not to teach. It's what we're groomed to do. So continue to pray for them. And until we meet again, we're going to try to encourage you every week. Elder Miller, if there is one thing we should take away from the lesson this week, what would that one thing be?
I think the biggest thing that we learn or need to remember from this week is that Jesus comes to give us the realization that we cannot live this life by ourselves. We desperately need him to be a light that shows us who God is, but also helps us to see who we are and how we work together in fellowship between us and God.
Wow. Thank you so much for your time, Elder Miller. We sure enough do appreciate you. Thank you so much. Continue going to Sunday school, supporting your local Sunday school. Call, check on your members, do all those things, and look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Bye.